is the president of Barstool, and he joins us tonight. Mr. Portnoy, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
So what's this lawsuit about?
Well, the NFL put on a whole line of T-shirts out that we feel directly infringe upon our Saturday for the Boys trademark. And the NFL has no problem suing everybody when they think they've even sneezed at what they're doing. So
yeah,
we decided we'd fight back on this one.
Did they give you a heads up before stealing your slogan?
They did not. I think that would ruin the steal. No, we just saw them. We were surprised by them. And then we sent the cease and desist out.
I mean, the NFL is one of the biggest commercial operations in the world. You're a website. Why wouldn't they just pay you for it?
Apparently they thought they could just take it, or they didn't think we'd notice, possibly, which I don't know how it's possible because we hate them and they hate us.
They arrested your reporters. Why'd they do that?
So we were protesting Tom Brady, the 4-game suspension he got because we didn't think there was any due process. He wasn't found guilty.
Right.
And Roger Goodell at one point said he'll talk to the media at any point. So we went and tried to talk to him. When he wouldn't meet with us, we handcuffed ourselves to each other in the parking lot, as you see there. And then we got hauled off to jail.
Was it worth it?
It is now. It's worth it now. When we're in jail, jail's pretty bad. I'd never been in jail before. So if you ask me during jail, I say no. Post-jail, yes.
Yeah, it changes a man. You got to do the time. You can't let the time do you.
Yeah, it hardens you up.
It does. So let me ask you a broader question, since I read your site and I admire it. I'll admit it, not to be a fan.
Yeah, nothing to be ashamed of.
Is it tough to run a site like that? Your site's popular because it's honest, actually. Totally honest, inoffensive, and irreverent. Is it hard to run a site like that right now, where you're not allowed to be honest and everyone's required to lie about everything all the time?
It's getting tougher. I'll give credit to, the people. I've been running it for a while, and I sold half of it. They like the voice. They like the authenticity, and that's what works. So we just stick with it. But it is more tricky because no matter what you say, there's somebody who's going to, bang their fist, scream, whatever. So it makes it a little more complicated.
They say, I mean, they pay you all this money because they say they like the voice, and they probably secretly do. But then when people complain, I mean, companies don't stand up for editorial freedom in this environment, do they? Do your corporate masters really stand firm against complaints?
Yeah, they really do, because for the most part, we're able to monetize through our audience, and the advertising's great. The advertising's what is at the core of everyone crumbling, basically, for the most part. You're worried about losing that. Our revenue stream is made on T-shirts and events and speaking to our consumers directly, so that gives us some more freedom than maybe other companies.
Have you noted, I mean, does this seem like a hard moment to make art? I mean, that requires free thinking, and that does seem in short supply right now.
Yeah, I'd say it's a very difficult time. I mean, we were lucky enough we had already built our voice and had this large fan base. But yeah, to start from scratch, especially with like social media, I feel like social media amplifies everything because, 10 to 20 people can make it seem like they're actually speaking for a much larger crowd when they're not.
That's right. Yeah, it'd scare the heck out of corporate people. Dave Portnoy, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. In the end, love of country is all we have. We aren't like other nations with a homogenous population and a shared history and religion. Increasingly, we don't even have a common language. So shared belief in America, the country, is the only glue that binds us together. Why are Vermont and Mississippi in the same country? Because people in both places love America. What happens when they no longer do? Many have accused the president of using the flag controversy as a diversion for more pressing topics like the threat of North Korea or the failure of his health care initiative. And as a political matter, that may be true. But it does not change the inherent significance of what you just watched last night at the game. Because when our elites attack our national symbols as if they're worthless and loathsome, something important, something monumental has changed here. If the people who've benefited most from America despise it, and increasingly they do, where does that leave the rest of us? Burgess Owens is a former NFL player. The Reverend Michael Faulkner is a candidate for New York Comptroller. Both of them once played for the New York Jets, so they're well situated to comment on this. Both join us tonight. Thank you both. Reverend, I want to go to you first and ask if you understand why this is all a little hard to take. Nobody contests the First Amendment right of these players to do what they've done. But to watch the richest, most celebrated, most pampered people in America attack, not police brutality, but the country itself, can you see why people find that so very disgusting?
Yeah, they don't know how to express their anger. And when, I push back a little bit, Tucker, on the richest, most pampered, because they've had to go through a journey to get where they are. So they've gone through some things to get where they are. They're not pampered. They weren't born of means. Many of them were born into low-income families, etc. So they've gotten where they've gotten because of their talent, their God-given ability. However,
but hold on, let me stop you there. But isn't that the whole point? And you're right, of course. What you just said is totally true. But isn't that the whole point? In America, people from a low station can wind up being some of the richest and most pampered people in the country, as they are.
Absolutely. And listen, as an American, I have a responsibility to challenge power, to challenge authority. However, we're talking now about the setting of it. The setting for an NFL football game and the stars of the game kneeling down before the game is not the proper setting for them to express their political angst and their opposition to what is going on outside of in the inner cities. And
right.
it just takes away the political legs, and it's offensive. And to be honest with you, I think we ought to talk about having that conversation, talking about giving them an opportunity to do something different, because not standing for the national anthem certainly wouldn't be something I would do.
Right. But I mean, these guys have plenty of, look, I mean, they can say every word is recorded by dutiful scribes in the sports press, so it's not like they have no outlet. So Burgess Owens, I'm wondering why the United States government should be subsidizing this. If these guys hate the government, a lot of the stadiums they play in, I would say the majority, are funded by taxpayers. The Pentagon spends hundreds of millions a year advertising at NFL games in the stadium and on broadcast. Why should they be doing that? If these guys hate America, why are American taxpayers picking up a lot of the tab?
Well, I don't think they should be, and I think that the free market is going to take care of that in itself. My concern with this whole process is what the flag stands for. When I stood on the sideline, I remember getting teary-eyed at points because I was so excited about being there, so proud to be part of that process. But I also grew up during a time when 70% of black men were mentors to us. They were in the home, doing the things they need to do, teaching us that this country is the greatest place to be and to grow in. We now have come to a point, because of liberalism, because of the process of what democratic policies do, 70% of black men do not stay around. They don't have these parents and these fathers to tell them what they should be proud of and how they should stand up and for this process. So this is not a void. We're dealing with an ideology that, first of all, bans God, has destroyed the black family in the 70s, which we led the country in terms of our strength of our family unit. They have destroyed our history. No one even knows about how strong the black American history was. And now they want to take away the pride of the country. And I think it's a bridge too far. I think this is the one thing that as Americans, we might disagree. Mike and I might disagree in terms of what they can do in the field, but at the end of the day, we love our country, and we're going to make sure we stand against those who take away the hope of our kids. And that's what these liberals are doing.
I think that's right. And I mean, Michael Faulkner, isn't that the whole point, that these are people who are revered by kids and by lots of Americans? And shouldn't they be, look, America's flawed, nobody argues that it's not, but that the whole enterprise is illegitimate and disgusting, which is what they're saying, and the flag is an object of contempt. Shouldn't they be telling us the opposite? Because it's obviously true.
And taking a knee, they don't get a chance to talk about their issue. First of all, they need to get up and do something about, they need to not just protest, but they need to get up and they need to be part of the national conversation to make America better, to make their communities better, to take their responsibilities, just like Burgess was talking about. But secondly, you know, I thought about it after I looked again at what Pittsburgh did. Maybe we should not allow them on the field unless they can stand in honor of the flag and the national anthem. Maybe they should not be, maybe they should be restricted from the field unless they plan to honor the flag and honor the national anthem as all the fans do in the stands.
Well, that's a great suggestion. By the way, Burgess, isn't that consistent with the way the NFL operates? I mean, if you want to wear orange socks on a team with white socks, you can't. The owner says, the team says you can't. That's exactly right. Why don't they hear?
Well, let's take it a step further. The NFL corporate office right here in New York City. How about if the employees on lunchtime decided they wanted to demonstrate? They'll come back and find out their desks will be vacated.
Right.
And at the end of the day, this is what's happening. The liberals at the top elitists, they are using my race. They're bringing misery to my race and then using this misery to make sure they keep their power. We need to make sure, number one, there's two things. We need to make sure that we're standing against corporate elitists, liberal elitists like the NFL. I will be boycotting every single team that does this. But we also have to, as black conservatives, get into the black community and let them see what the Democratic Party has for years done to them. It's not a white American problem. It's a democratic, black and white elitist problem.
And the third thing you need to do is run for something so I can vote for you. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Gentlemen.